Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, author of the Dreamer Chronicles. Oh, don't look at him. Don't look at him. He's covering up the screen.
I'm a master criminal. You're not supposed to know who I am.
You are a master criminal. You are a master criminal. Criminally awesome. So, how are you doing on this fine Australian morning?
It's a crisp morning this morning, I have to tell you. But crisply nice. It's beautiful blue sky. The sun is coming through the treetops. It's in winter here. It's very cool in the mornings where I live. Yeah. Particularly where I am because I'm on an old volcanic mountain plug. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Sounds like I'm a hermit sitting up on some old volcanic mountain.
I'm on the top of a mountain. I have 1 megabit per year internet connection.
So we're kind of sheltered by a lot of rainforest, which means the sun doesn't reach us until a little later in the day. But it's kind of bizarre in winter. You can often be in jeans and long sleeves in the morning, and then by the time it gets to around 11, if you're out in the sun, then you want to be in shorts and a t-shirt again. So yeah. How are things in Chicago?
That sounds fun. Chicago's good. It's summer. Summer's the best time to be here. Festivals, warm weather.
Ooh,
it is good. I'm happy. Yes. We would love to have you for sure.
How would we do that though? We couldn't possibly have a show, so we wouldn't be split.
We wouldn't be split. And I think we're not going to be split on this book review today.
No.
For Legend by Marie Lu, which is it's a combination of a lot of genres. You've got some dystopia in there. You've got some thriller aspects. You've got conspiracy, mystery stuff. It's a lot of fun. And it's a short, quick read. At least the audiobook was pretty short and quick. And I think it's a really interesting art. Another book where there's 2 first-person POVs.
Yes, and nicely done too. I thought so. We'll get to that, of course, from both reader and writer perspective. But yeah, a lot of fun. It's an easy. When you say a quick read, it's kind of one that you tear through because it's fun. And there's plenty of page turning stuff. It's a great YA Hunger Games-esque sort of style. Not that there's necessarily any real pitting against one another in that sense, but anyway, take us away. Tell the listeners.
All right. Teenagers June and Day were born on different sides of the track. While June is a perfect score prodigy being groomed for the Republic's highest military circles, Day was born into the poorest of slums, and his Robin Hood acts of bravery have made him the country's most wanted criminal. When June's brother is murdered and Day becomes the prime suspect, their paths cross in a deadly cat-and-mouse game. Little do they know that the Republic has been hiding secrets from them both. Uncovering the dark truth could end their game well before a victor is crowned. So, let's talk about Legend. This is a breakneck-paced book, as you said.
Yes.
It's short. A lot happens during that time. And I'll admit, I think, personally, the second half on was more exciting for me because our characters are apart. Our 2 main characters are apart at the beginning. And when they come together, from then on, it was just, it just moved so quick. And we were so excited. I was so excited to see how they would interact, and I was not disappointed. What are your initial thoughts?
I didn't get the sense of the first and the second half. Maybe there's some difference there because of the way it's narrated. But because I suppose you're deliberately held apart by the 2 first-person point of views, and that might make it seem a bit slow if it's being narrated by 2 different voices.
It is.
Yeah. So whereas when you get into the action, of course, it would alternate much with a higher frequency.
Yes.
So I could see how that might be the case. Look, Breakneck is great. It's a wild ride. It's fast paced. It's edgy. It's got if you've ever been a fan of Blade Runner type of things, I can see it being that kind of Blade Runner-esque sort of movie. It's got that edgy feel to it. You often find Day sitting on the edge of skyscrapers and things, and he's kind of slightly indestructible. So he's a 15-year-old boy. There's a lot of kids going to love this, because he's a brawler, and he seems to sort of just about land on his feet, gets out of things by the skin of his teeth on many occasions, and so it's fun. He's not a superhero, but he's got those superhero kind of characteristics.
He's so much fun.
His opposite number, who is essentially begins as the antagonist, and I won't take it any further than that. There's some good twists in it, I think, in that respect. Possibly not necessarily unexpected, but the way they're done, I think, is nice. I couldn't say that I predicted them. It kept me reading because I wanted to find out what was happening next, and that's always a good thing.
You could tell when certain things happen. You see a clue.
Yes.
And I'm sure that with some readers you'll not necessarily know, and I'm sure I didn't know all of them, and you're like, ooh, what does that mean? And then like that's coming back later, and and kind of use that. There were still some unexpected surprises though.
Yes.
And those really, really get you. But yeah, it's not about it necessarily being a deep mystery, but you've still got enough mystery to just go on.
That's right. What did you think about the characters and the character development? I'm interested in that because we did have somebody who said to us, could you perhaps lend a little bit of an ear to character development? I think this is a book where there's a lot of action, not many characters. It's pretty much between June and Day most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think both characters, our introduction to them really tells us so much. We've got June is caught climbing up a wall that she's not supposed to in the military training facility. And meanwhile, you've got Day who's orchestrating this break-in to help his family get cures for a disease.
Yes.
And it's this very crazy diving around, running caper. And so you see in what they're doing, you see revealed who they are.
Yes.
And I think that really goes a long way to getting a quick feel for who these people are.
Yes, you start in the action. This is one of those stories where there's no mucking around developing a character. You definitely learn who they are by what they're doing. There's no question about that.
And that's fine, I think.
Which is fine.
Like, I think it's fine to learn that. You could see a whole thing about who they, like, where they came from, see them with their family, et cetera, et cetera. And you have moments like that. But they're short and sweet, and you don't need more. You can do a lot with a little.
I did feel that some of the supporting characters were a little two-dimensional and maybe cliched. It didn't bother me from the point of view of the story because they weren't essential, if you like. And also one of the supporting characters, Day's sidekick, Tess, is it Tess?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand why she was in this story actually until later.
She didn't seem. Yeah, she was kind of similar to her character traits. She was quiet and floaty.
Yeah, she was kind of an essential plot device that had to be there in order to make something happen later.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think I'm sounding overly critical. Actually, I really love this, and I'm really looking forward to it being a movie. I think they make a great movie. It's a perfect story for it. It's got those nice futuristic elements and some lots of banging, crashing, quite a lot of violence, and so this is definitely for the older YA reader. There's not anything explicit sexually. There's some kissing, but the violence and death in it is pretty full on. So.
It's Hunger Gamesian in that.
Yeah, maybe even worse. I mean, there's lots. Well, I suppose in Hunger Games, in the later books, it's implied that there are thousands of people mowed down by military, isn't it? So if you're looking at the whole trilogy, it is like that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the issues, and there are some plot points that are kind of ripped from other books a little bit, and so we've got some character issues, maybe some plot issues, but it's so fast,
Yes,
and so entertaining that it just doesn't let you dwell on it that much, and so she gets away with it, and I think that's an important lesson for us to learn as writers. If you do your job, which is entertain, people don't really care that there are some shortcomings.
oh, indeed. I mean, I think I'm speaking sort of from a literary critique point of view for sure. For me,
Yeah.
it's 5-star entertainment, and I wanted to read on. I really did. So, and there are plenty more in the series to come. It's nicely resolved at the end, but also left open. So,
Yep.
it's some interesting turns that I think provide a good staging for the next part of how many there are in the series. I don't even know how many there are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure myself either.
So they can only really get better if the writer, if Marie Lu sticks to her style and doesn't just bash them out. It's kind of it's fast paced and entertaining in that sort of comic book style, isn't it? Where you just it's not junk food, it's not pulp, but it's just you can consume this fast and enjoy it fast and feel satisfied at the end.
Yes, I agree with that. I am ready to talk writer's perspective.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So what do you think from a writer's perspective has made it that way?
Has made it so fast and entertaining?
Yeah.
Well, I think that you don't have any fluff scenes. Every scene has a purpose. There's no scenes where you're getting just a feel of something for the feel of it. When our characters come in, when they are introduced to each other, it's in a very action-packed way. It's not in a like, oh, let's stretch this out. It's actually like boom, pow, fighting, chasing, running, gas bombs, etc. And so you don't really, and then they're being introduced, and so you don't really have time to think. There's no time to think. You almost take the place of the characters.
Yes.
You just have to act and react.
Yes.
Really quickly. So I think that just the no wasted scenes we have in June's brother, we have an important plot character and an important character for the development of June, and he's really only in about one scene.
That's right.
But we get to know their relationship enough from that one scene that we feel enough of what we need to feel to feel her loss. And spoiler, it's pretty early in the book.
It is.
When her brother,
it's in the blurb.
It's in the blurb when her brother dies, and so we feel what we need to feel, and we move on. And there's nothing more. So there's no fat to cut from this one. It's just tight, lean meat that we gobble up as we go along.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because there are things about Matthias and I don't know how they pronounced it in the audio, but her brother and his relationship with her prior that drive her throughout the book, particularly in her pursuit of Day. And she sort of gradually comes to realize things. So one of the things I said is I do think that the way that the revelations were unfolded was really done nicely. It could have been tempting to have given away so much early on. And particularly when you've got so much action happening, there's a tendency perhaps to want to explain the action to the reader, but she doesn't. She just gets on with it. To me, this book is explosive incident driven. It's just it just goes from one to another, and there's almost no let up, but it's enough there's enough downtime that you don't feel like you're exhausted, but you will read it fast. I think that in leading us in a string of incidents, as these two characters are brought together, that's been really well done. And like you say, there are two definitely distinct parts to the book. There's the when they're separate, and then there's the when they're together.
Yeah, for sure. I have two more writers' things. One is I already mentioned this, our second split perspective first person book. Both of them were great.
They were.
What is it, Robert, about this point of view style that seems to work so well? What do you think?
Well, I think it's because you don't have to, as a reader, spend an awful lot of time thinking about what the other side is doing. So you've got you're in the thoughts of both elements of what might be driving the plot, and so you get to see what neither character sees, which is the encompassing thoughts of the both, and perhaps to some degree, not necessarily in this book, although you do get a little bit of it because you hear about the overarching world from both of their perspectives. So you've kind of got the omniscient narration as well, although it's not done deliberately in the book, but you get a sense of it. So I think it gives you a rounded picture, and obviously allows for some suspense because you know what both characters are thinking, but they don't know what either of them are thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that if it's well done, can be extremely good. The fact that it's first person present tense, if it's well written, then gives that edgy feel. I find it very hard to write in first person present tense. I admire people who do that and do it keeping us feeling as if everything's happening. I've written multiple point of view in third person past, and I think you're the same. And that's possibly easier, and you can also do the same thing. You can set up suspense because you're varying points of view. So what do you think?
I agree. I think that getting in the heads of both your main characters just gives you gives your readers the chance to really play one off the other, what they know of what's in one head versus the other, when you know that maybe one character likes another character and the other character likes the same character, and they can't express it to one another, then that leads to some really dramatic tension, which is fun to see the interplay off of each other. And later in the book, when there's kind of shorter chapters, it really helps keep the pace going of you getting to see just as much as you need to see in one character's head, and then just as much as you need to see in the others. Yes.
I think, it's purely a style choice. I wouldn't necessarily say from a YA writer's perspective that this is a better decision to have those two first person present tense point of views working. It depends on the story you're telling, really, and in this particular case it totally fits the story, as it did in All the Bright Places, which is a completely different book. So chalk and cheese to this style of book, and yet you've got the same thing, the two first person present tense. So it can be done regardless of genre. It just depends on the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, agreed. So one last thing,
and then I've got last thing.
I love the life of the slums. I loved.
Yes.
I mean, you already brought up Blade Runner.
Yes.
Kind of just seeing, like, a lot of these books, I think we kind of only see the elite side, or at least we don't see the slums in great detail. And I felt like I was really a part of Day's travels through kind of ramshackle areas, especially with those skiz fights and everything.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
That was like that made that really the fights in my head that really came to mind. That was great.
The illegal fight scenes, yes, that's right. Of course. Yeah, when I was reading those, I remember thinking, this is really going to appeal to Bryan. He loves a good fight scene.
I love a good fight scene.
Yeah, and they were good. They were. In fact, she writes fight scenes really well. All up, the action stuff is really well done. Yes, I agree. I'd noted that the dystopian setting I thought was really well done, and the whole haves and have-nots thing is also really well done and quite dark. And the descriptions are excellent with these kind of rundown skyscrapers and these alleyways where they have to find these skiz fights. Yeah, nicely pointed out. It's certainly.
What's your last thing?
My last thing, yeah. I thought that the two 15-year-old main characters at times do seem very invincible, and I realise that's actually part of the story. I mean, they score very highly in this particular trialing thing, and so at times I did wonder, when I think early on in the book, Day manages to leap out of some third-story window and only really sort of twist his ankle or something. Okay. But then again, they are set up to be these incredibly able people, and to me, it was still far more believable than, say, something like Divergent. So, all I can say is, let's get a movie made of this, and and why not? Pit two prodigies against one another and make a story out of it. So
see, that's something I think when you have the one chosen one, you've got that story that's kind of tough to deal with.
Yes.
But when there's two chosen ones, you can have them fight each other. You can have them battle for supremacy. So I think it's a cool plot device, the two chosen ones.
Yeah, and hence why those 2 points of view work really, really well in this particular instance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Takeaways?
So, takeaways. Would you rather go first or second?
I'll go first, yeah.
Great, go for it.
And this relates totally to the first person point of view thing, the alternating. I think the intense characterization of both of them, admittedly, outside of those, there's not an awful lot of characterization, but that's probably because it's first person point of view.
Sure.
I think it really lifts it above the setting. So although we've both remarked that the setting is excellent, it's really mostly about being in both Day and June's heads, and I love being in both their heads. I thought it was fantastic and really well done.
Yeah, I completely agree. My takeaway is the faster your book, the less likely readers are going to dwell on its issues.
It's true.
So, I mean, if you're a little worried, just cut out some scenes and keep the pace going.
That's right. Well, that's true, though, isn't it? I mean, we all probably have stories where some judicious editing and cutting of scenes, and, it's that whole murder your darlings thing. We've probably lots of scenes left in there because you love them, but there's nothing wasted in here. And again, all the bright places, nothing wasted in there. Two completely different books, just different styles. One of my takeaways is, even though dystopian, George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, all these, it's been around for donkey's years, this Big Brother stuff. You can still write a fresh story about it. And if the story's well told, it's timeless. We all fear our governments oppressing us. So, and particularly I think when you're young, the YA audience responds well to this. I think when you get to my age, you realise that it's just basically hopeless anyway. And you fight back with podcasts. Yes, we'll slay them with our incredible reviews.
Yep.
So I do think, but for those who are, say, in the 12 to 18 bracket, starting to realise that the big gentle hands of the parents don't necessarily continue to exist in big gentle hands of the government. These are good eye-opening books. Think, oh wow, what if life was like that? And it probably still is in a little way. Yeah.
That's great. That's a great point. I hadn't really thought of that, but it makes sense for YA's love of dystopia.
Big Brother is watching you.
I have a prompt.
Let's go for a prompt.
How would your life be different if you were born into the polar opposite of your income level? How would you have developed differently? Would you like that version of yourself? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think I would hate me.
Yeah. I guess because I was kind of upper middle class, I'd be upper poverty. I don't know. I don't know what the reverse of that would be. But yeah, it would be different. It would be because I'm watching a lot of Orange is the New Black right now on Netflix. And in this show, which is very well done, you see a lot of the backstories of these characters and how they ended up in their situation. And a lot of them come from poorer backgrounds, and you see what they had to deal with. And I don't know how I would have dealt with some of those situations. And so it's a lot could change. Even just a small change in how you were raised could really impact you.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it, about stories, is the stuff happens, but it's not what happens that's important, is how you respond to it. And so, as you say, you know, one's background, you know, your values, your beliefs, your upbringing, the circumstance, everything conspires to do that, and then conspires to make you make the choices that you do. And I think that's why in Legend it's so powerful being in both their heads, because they have had different circumstance and history that's brought them to where they are, and yet there's so much about each of them that's the same. And so that's what gives us that tension and conflict. So anyway, we should, you know, people should write an incredibly legendary story based on your prompts, and they should go and paste it into the comments.
Yeah, on the splitbookreviews.com. They can also email us at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com for any suggestions of future books that we should read. And you can go on iTunes, give us a review, and say that our reviews are great.
Just that. That's what we do. Just that. Their reviews are great.
Their reviews are great. Yeah. 500 stars. So next week, we're talking about Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and both of us really loved it. So I'm excited to talk at length about it. Another example of YA dystopia raging against the machine, and I'm excited to talk about it at length.
Indeed. And speaking about what's coming up next, by the time you're listening to this, there should be a section on the website now that shows what our upcoming queue is, as far as we know it. Sometimes these things get changed around just through reason of suggestion, but we do have a fairly extensive queue. And, you know, I like to get those, Bryan and I like to get those stacked up sort of, you know, 5 or 6 in advance. And currently we've only been telling you 1 in advance, but we've had a few requests saying, hey, what about us that have to order them from the library? That's you, Michelle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd love to let people know in advance what's coming up. And so expect those. And of course, if you're on our mailing list, then you get our regular newsletter, which goes into great depth with each. No, we just tell you.
We have we even used the newsletter to this point?
Of course we have. Yes, of course.
We'll be better about that. Well, good stuff, Robert. Yeah, go check that out on the website, because if you want to follow along with us, we want to definitely give you the notice you need so that you can get it out from the library.
Exactly. And for you listening, you are a legend.
A legend. So thank you guys for listening to The Split this week. Robert, I think you already used your tagline, but that's Robert Scanlon. I'm Bryan Cohen. Thank you for listening, and come check us out for Red Rising next week.
Ciao.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to The Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.